I mean, just look at the marijuana initiative for medical use. It's such a not being used for the way it was intended. I mean, I see a lot of 24, 25-year-old kids out there with their medical marijuana card, and they think it makes it okay for them to grow and smoke pot. So if it's legalized, across the board, what are the kids going to think? That it's okay? We have enough problems with alcohol and other drugs that, what do we need one more for? It just doesn't make sense to me. They can't regulate what they already have on the books, and they're going to make it more widespread. I see a lot of kids that probably before wouldn't have took the chance on growing pot or smoking pot, and now with their little medical marijuana cards, they're all out there growing it and smoking it.
How are they getting those cards?
Then you can go to a doctor and pay him a fee, and he'll give you a card for just about anything.
What do you think of that?
My 24-year-old son got a card because he said he had a bad hip, that his hip hurts. Yet he gets out and rides dirt bikes all day long and works on trucks and goes four-wheeling, and there ain't a thing wrong with his hip. It's too easy for him to get it. They'll give it to you for anything. And it's just not right. It's like my son never grew and all that kind of stuff until he was able to get the marijuana medical card. Now he grows pot and he smokes pot 10 times as much as he used to. Well, I smoked marijuana for many years. I started smoking when I was 13. I quit about 15, 18 years ago. Well, no, it's probably been about 22 years ago now. And, during the years that I smoked pot, it's a whole different lifestyle. You have no motivation to do anything except as little as you possibly can to get by. And part of what I did to get by was grow and sell it. And it was just wrong. I mean, my life since I quit smoking it has, did a 360, and, I'm a contractor. I work for a living. My kids are better off. My whole lifestyle, my friends that I have are different. It's a demotivator. It just keeps you down. I look back on it now, and I have a total different opinion than I did back when I used to smoke pot. When I used to smoke pot, I mean, I got up in the morning and I'd take a bong hit or smoke a joint, and I'd go out and cut firewood and drive and do everything, I mean, and I thought, it's no big deal. It didn't affect me. But I look back on it now and I think about all the close calls I had because, we were stoned and screwing around out in the woods with chainsaws and stuff. Yeah, I'd say it definitely affected the way I did things and my ability to, just perform. I mean, just be a normal working person. I mean, and, I quit because I had been partying for the weekend, and I slept in one morning, and my oldest son, who's 24 now, or 29 now, he was standing at the side of my bed and waiting for me to wake up. And it was probably about 12 o'clock. And I woke up and seen his little 6-year-old face standing beside my bed saying, "Dad, can we go play now?" And see, I used to think that there was nothing wrong with smoking pot because I wasn't hurting anybody else. And at that minute, I realized I was hurting somebody else. I was hurting my son. And even though I quit when he was 6, he still seen enough of that lifestyle that as he got older, he started smoking pot. Even though I quit that young. I now have a 14-year-old son who has never been around that lifestyle, except seeing what it's done to his brother and to other friends. He doesn't want anything to do with it. I really do not worry. I mean, there's always a chance that it's out there, but I'd say that the chances of him smoking pot are so minuscule, and it's because of what he's seen me do and what he's seen it do to his brother, to his older brother. And I mean, anybody that says that it doesn't affect your life or that you can function fully smoking pot, even occasionally, is full of crap. You know, I've been there and done that. It don't work. It just doesn't work. You know, I've been able over the years, luckily, to use a lot of my experiences from back then to help other people avoid that. So, you know, it's like when I was smoking and stuff, when the guy that would come in who had never smoked pot in his life, never done a drug, always been a goody-goody, as I called him back then, would try to tell me something about it, I'd just blow him off, because I'd just say, you know, what do you know? You don't know nothing. You ain't never been there. You ain't never done it. Well, you know what? I have been there and I have done it. And I really wish I could have listened to some of those people. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to everybody else. But when you really look back and look down inside, you know you were lying to yourself. And you know it does affect you. You can say it all you want, but it does. You know, a lot of people say that marijuana is not addictive. You know, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if it's physically addictive, but the lifestyle is addictive. And I know that when I was in high school, when I first started smoking pot, I wouldn't have nothing to do with any other kind of drug. I mean, I did smoke my pot and that was it. But you know, the whole lifestyle and the people that you surround yourself with, you know, they do other drugs, they do other things. And, you know, later on when I got in my early 20s, then, you know, I was doing coke and I was doing other drugs. So to say if it's addictive or it leads to other drugs, I don't know medically if it does, but I do know that the drug lifestyle does lead to other drugs. I mean, you're around that kind of people and you're eventually going to succumb and you're going to try it. And if you try it and you like it, you know, it's a whole nother thing. And I've just seen it destroy a lot of lives. And there is probably 1 out of 100 people who do coke or methamphetamines or any of the other drugs that didn't start with smoking pot. So to say that it doesn't lead to other drug use, I just don't believe that. An old guy told me one time a long time ago, you are who you surround yourself with. And if you're a pot smoker, you're going to want to be around other pot smokers. And so that cuts you off from people that may be a different kind of influence on you. And I had a lot of friends when I was young. My best friend growing up, his dad was an old biker. He smoked pot, and that's who I gravitated toward. And at the time, I really looked up to him. You know, he was a hardcore Harley riding biker, you know. You know, when you're 13, 14, 15 years old, that lifestyle looks appealing. You know, you get to ride motorcycles all the time, you get to party, you get to have a good time. Life's just a big freaking ball, you know. You just go out and have fun. But when you're 25 and you got a family, it ain't the same. You can't do that anymore. And then you don't know how to do anything else. You got to start all over. You got to go, hey, what am I doing? You know, and that's what I did. And so at 25, when I should have been on my way to my career or on my way to doing what I wanted to do in life, I was just starting. And I was one of the lucky ones. Most people don't ever get to start over. They don't have it in them to give up that old life and to go for something different. You know? And you know, who pays for it the most? Your kids. You know, then they grow up thinking that that's the way to make a living and that's the way to live. What good does it do? Really? I mean, so you get high for a few hours. You know, you've got all these things out there against alcohol, which is already legal. And you look at alcohol, and yeah, you know, having a drink once in a while isn't that big a deal, having a glass of wine with dinner. But you know, you look how many millions of dollars we're spending on alcohol addiction, on you know, abuse because of alcoholics, on everything about alcohol. And then they're going to make another drug legal and that easy to get. You know, they've jumped on the bandwagon of our deficit and California being in a financial bind. And they've been trying since the 60s to get marijuana legalized. And they will grab the most current reason and try to use it for a way to get marijuana legalized. I mean, I even back in the early 70s and mid 70s, I was all for them legalizing it. Why? Because then I thought, it'll be a lot cheaper. You know, that'd be great. I can get my pot a lot cheaper. Shoot, legalize that stuff. But the bottom line is it's all money. You know, somebody's out there going to make a profit, or they wouldn't be spending all this money to try to get it legalized. You know, they just want to bring it from it being a struggle and being illegal to make money on it to being able to make money on it legally. And I don't think that's a good enough reason. Yeah, if somebody wants to do pot, they're going to do it, if it's legal or not. But there is a lot of people out there who won't smoke pot because it is illegal, who would probably try it if it wasn't. I mean, that's my belief. That's what I believe. And, you know, I have friends who have never smoked pot, and their biggest reason they've never tried it is because it's illegal. And so to say that they can keep it away from the kids and that they can regulate it, that's just a crock of crap. It's harder for kids now to get alcohol than it is for them to get pot. So you're going to make pot more readily available than alcohol? Because at least alcohol, it has to come from a store. It has to come from somewhere. You know, anybody with a backyard and a shovel can grow pot. You know, and if it ain't illegal, how many yards down your block in your neighborhood are going to have pot plants in the backyard? How many 12, 13-year-olds are going to hop the fence and steal them? How many people are going to get shot for hopping the fence and trying to steal somebody's pot plants? You know, I mean, they say that it would decriminalize it, it would take some of the violence out of it. That's bullcrap. I don't care if it's legal or not. If you've spent 6 months growing a pot plant and somebody tries to steal it, most people out there are going to do something about it. It's bad enough how many people are getting hurt or getting shot or getting killed over drugs, and it's illegal, and there's only a few people out here that have it. You know, it's like I said, if every other house in a neighborhood is growing a couple pot plants because they think it's okay now, how many people are going to get hurt? I don't think it's worth the risk. You know, if one more person gets hurt because of it, it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. To people who grow plants and who do pot, it's like somebody's coming in and trying to steal their gold. You know, that's their worth. It's their valuable item. And it's human nature to protect what you own of value from somebody else. And, you know, kids don't think. You know, I could care less about the adults, but kids don't think. A kid, you know, I know when I was 13 or 14 years old, if I knew somebody down the block was growing pot and they had these big old nice pot plants back there and I got half a chance, I would have went over that fence and snagged them. And, you know, because you don't think. You're invincible when you're 13, 14, 15 years old. And anybody that thinks that the 13, 14, 15-year-olds ain't going to get it, they're just lying to themselves and lying to everybody else, because they're going to get it. They're going to do it. And a lot more of them, I believe, would do it that would be deterred for the fact that it's illegal and that they could get in trouble if they have it.
So do you have an opinion on this?
You think?
Okay.